Welcome to another writing vlog, the first writing vlog of the year. So I just came back from class and my phone is 20%. So I want to see if I can quickly introduce this vlog before my phone dies or gets to like 10%. So writing vlog, and I'm starting a new novel. So it's a fantasy novel. I think this is my first time in my life that I'm writing a fantasy novel. So I've written sci-fi. I used to write sci-fi a lot when I was in secondary school and primary school. But I've not written fantasy, like core fantasy, like magic and new worlds and all that. If you want to know what the story is about, that's what this vlog is going to be about. Just me brainstorming the story idea, like trying to flesh it out before I start writing. But I started writing actually, but it's not as if I have fully developed like how I want my story to be like, because I said I like to outline, but I've not outlined it because there are some things that I still haven't figured out. So for context, my name is Norma Balewe, and last year in November I wrote a novel that I did not finish. So NaNoWriMo is in November, that's National Novel Writing Month, and I started a novel, a romantic thriller, but I think I ended up like 15k words or so, and I did not finish. And in that last writing update, I said that even though that novel that I started in November had been in my mind longer, 2 years or so, and this one that I want to start writing just maybe like 15 months or so, I wish I started this one that I want to start now because it is newer, but it feels more ready in my mind. So November, I did not complete that novel, and now it's January, and I'm starting this novel that I wanted to start. So this vlog is just me brainstorming, trying to find scenes, ideas, like just building the world, building the characters, finding the characters, naming the characters, just trying to build the story in my head or on paper before it actually gets onto the full story you get. So let me just explain what the novel is about, like briefly, but I'll still give a little like more details, but I don't think that I will not spoil. I don't like spoiling anything that I feel like maybe you could read later. So it is fantasy, I've said that. Then it is in a hidden world. Like Harry Potter, like they're in a hidden world that is separate from regular world. So maybe you have to go through a portal to enter the world. But the world is like still on Earth, but it's not like another planet or whatever, but like people don't generally know about it. So I've always loved all these conspiracy theories about Bermuda Triangle, about Atlantis. You know how they say, oh, Bermuda Triangle is really Garden of Eden, and they're trying to, like, any plane or any ship that passes by, like that area in the sea, it's always causing planes to crash and ships to go missing, all that. And you just hear people that like they were on a plane and it just vanished. So I was just like, I've always liked that plot line, like, okay, could I do something? Like, I've always liked it, but like I have not ever like had a concrete idea. So I've watched a lot of Atlantis movies, cartoons and everything, and I just like, okay, maybe one day. So I've always loved that fact. Yeah, Genesis too, like when God chased Adam and Eve away from Garden of Eden, like he puts angels in charge, like to protect the Garden of Eden so that nobody will be able to find it. So everybody knows that Garden of Eden is still on Earth, like nobody knows the grab, like where it is. So that's where the story is. It is in a hidden world. Then that was like the first idea I've had of a hidden world story before. That was like years, but I just used to like just be in my head like, oh, what if I could write a story about somebody that is in a hidden world, that is in Garden of Eden, Atlantis, all those kind of. I just did not have a particular story idea. Next story idea that I had, even though I did not, how story ideas come, like they come in bits and pieces, like you just see here. So it's not up to you to like, okay, do I want it in this story or do I want it in another story? So I had this idea of a girl. So she's not particularly royalty, but she's eating. And which scene? I think it was this scene in Merlin where somebody poisoned Otto, and Merlin was like, oh, somebody has poisoned this Otto's drink, oh, let's not make him drink and everything. So Merlin came to come and tell Otto, like they were like in a party, and somebody said like, okay, Merlin, drink it, like let's see if you are really. So Merlin drank it, he died, and I can't remember how he woke up. So that scene was like, oh, like somebody that dies protecting their the person they're supposed to protect. So you know how Merlin was like Otto's servant. Yeah, that just came to my head when I watched that scene was like, okay, there's a girl and there's this person that eats her food before her just to check if it is poisoned or if it's not poisoned. So the person eats the food and maybe waits for like 10 minutes or 20 minutes. I don't know the exact like science of how poison works, but it depends on the kind of poison too. So the person waits for 20 minutes or so before she starts eating. So the person eats the food and like she's legit about to start eating. And the thing is that the person and her, like, they're opposite each other, they're on the same table, and they are gisting, they are laughing. So it's obvious that they are friends. You know how Otto and Merlin are friends, and the person dies, like, just as she's about to eat the food. So I was like, that would be like a very nice backstory. So somebody that doesn't trust, has difficulty building friendships and everything, because the person that she was close to dies because of her, like all that. And that she was close to somebody that in high esteem, like royalty or the elite or somebody rich, somebody with affluence. Her servants are like, everybody's like scared of her when she grows up, because she doesn't, not like particularly scared, but like everybody's like cautious of her because she doesn't trust. She's very rigid, everything. So she's very like that. So when I got the idea, I was like, okay, let me just let it sit in my head. Like, I don't know what to do with it. That would just be a very nice, that kind of story. Like, oh, like what happened? How will she soften up? Who will she meet that will open her up and make her trust and everything? So that was in my head. That's how things just started coming. And I was like, okay, if I could bring this Atlantis Garden of Eden story and this girl together, like, how is it going to work out? So I've been brainstorming, and basically I'll let you know all the things I've come up with, because I've come up with a lot. You know, I already said that I've started writing the story, but I've not gone far enough to like fully understand the way things are working in the story. Like, the setting is Garden of Eden. You know, technically nobody is in Garden of Eden, but it's fiction, so somebody is in Garden of Eden. And one of the things I'm going to brainstorm is like, okay, how does that work? Like, what happened? Like, why are there communities? Why is there a whole city? Why is there a whole nation in Garden of Eden? Why are they there while nobody else knows about it? So that's what I'm going to brainstorm. I'm going to brainstorm characters, setting of that. I'm going to brainstorm culture, because you know they are totally separate from like the rest of the earth. So they don't have the same technologies that we do, the same way we view things. So culture, characters, and the storyline too, because I don't know a lot. I've not outlined the story, so it's just like still in my head. But at least I know where I'm going, but I'm not exactly sure of the direction the story is going to be. It's going to be a series, and I don't know how many books. My mind is telling me like 3 books is not going to be enough. I'm not those kind of people that like reading. What was I saying? I can't remember what I was saying. But if I've not completed my thoughts, I will explain it in the next clip or something. So this vlog is basically about brainstorming, my brainstorming process, how I build up my novel before I start writing. So if there's anybody that has a story idea but doesn't know how to take it from the idea to the actual writing process. So I think that's all, like the introduction. It's a very long introduction. I've got 10 minutes already. So at the moment, I'm at 25k words. Yeah. I've actually gone further than when I first started like this video, but I am stuck. Like, I don't have any other thing to write. I have written the beginning and I've written a few scenes at the end, but that middle, like, I don't know what's going to happen there. Like, nothing. I don't know anything. So I'm just thinking about, okay, every story is like very interesting if there's like a secret. I just like when movies, books, like one character is keeping one secret from the other, like, and I just want to figure out who has a secret and who is keeping those secrets from other people, if you get. So I'm looking for a secret that will like make the book more interesting. Like, the readers will know the secret, but like the other person does not know the secret. So I'm just thinking about that. Then just trying to like, what happens in the middle that will lead to the end, because my ending, I usually have like the ending in mind before I start writing. So I already know the ending. I've written the ending. I just need to know what will happen in the middle that will make characters behave and become like the characters that they are in the end. My main character, I don't really have a lot of things planned for in the middle. It's just like a few romantic subplots for other characters, not for the main character. So you know how I said I was going to brainstorm on how there are people in Garden of Eden, how come there are people there and the rest of the world does not know. At first I was thinking that, okay, the angel that was put to protect the Garden of Eden, like with the sword and everything, started calling human beings back, like as far delegating authority, like, okay, come and protect the tree of life, that kind of thing. And for there to be a city there, like, they should have been there for like centuries, like for thousands of years to grab. So like, okay, maybe they call like maybe 10 people of different races, because like the characters that I have in mind at the moment that are living in the city, the name of the city is called PR. There's this phrase I'm looking for when like somebody is like does not look white, doesn't look black, doesn't look like a specific race. When I remember it, like, because it has been on my mind since, I can't remember why I've forgotten it. So like maybe the angel called like 10 people, and over the centuries, like decades and everything, people have like grown, and they're like 15,000, I think, at the moment. Like in my novel I wrote 15,000. I don't know if I'll change it, because 15,000 seems a little too small for like decades of living there. Decades. How am I saying decades? Centuries of living there. And I was like, that seems to work, but like, why would an angel like delegate authority? But even though basically like they are protectors, the people that are in Garden of Eden right now, they are protectors. They are protecting the tree of life to grab. So I still have a few things to like figure out. But at the moment, I'm just thinking that, you know how Bermuda Triangle that could just be taking people and people are vanishing and they've not been found. I'm just like, okay, some people survive, some people don't. Obviously, maybe let's say, just imagine like, oh, you're on a ship and you're going over the Bermuda Triangle and like there's a storm and blah, 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 and people die and maybe like 2 people out of like 2,000 survive. So like every time somebody crashes in Bermuda Triangle or around that area, you get like they find themselves in Garden of Eden. But it's not like they don't know it's Garden of Eden, because by the time like they wake up, like their memory is lost, and they shall build the society and build PR and everything. So I'm just thinking maybe that's what I'm going to do. Okay, everybody that's been there, they're like descendants of people that have been lost for years and decades and centuries. I also wanted that people don't know how life is like on Earth, like how the rest of the world are living. Like they don't know about technology and all those kind of things. They don't know anything. They don't know social media, everything. So that means like maybe for the past 200 years, people have not entered the city, PR. Those are the things that are just in my mind, like how are people there? And apart from that, like I also have to like think about things like language, culture, because they're a new city, they've been there for centuries, and they're supposed to have a specific kind of culture. So at the moment, I'm thinking about a society that is not very capitalistic. Like there's no currency, there's no money. People don't have businesses like that. Obviously, there are farmers, there are bakers, chefs, musicians, everything, but they're not doing it for money to grab. So the way I've already like set up my hand, like there are kitchens. Like the city of PR, I don't know if it's a city yet, whether it's a city or a nation or a town. I don't know. It's a republic. It's a group of people that have been there forever, like a nation. In PR, there are different houses or compounds. I'm still thinking about it because each house is like a huge acre of land, like very huge. That has different houses inside, like a lot of houses. So if I call each little acre of land a house, like if I want to describe a house, you grab a house like so I'm thinking of calling it like a compound. So each compound has different houses. So in each compound there are kitchens and people cook. They cook for everybody in that compound. So everybody in PR knows their place. There are kitchen people, there are warriors, there are musicians. Everybody has like different things, and none of them are getting paid for it. One of the main characters, she's not really a main character, but she's going to be very important in the story. She works as a kitchen maiden, and the kitchen is very important in the story too, because obviously people need to eat, and a lot of drama is going to happen in the kitchen, because like if you are not living in your house, like you just go to the kitchen is like a building in the compound, and you go there, and sometimes in the evenings when it's time for like social gatherings, the kitchen people come out and they serve and everything. So I'm just thinking about like how their culture is. So at the moment their culture is not like capitalistic, it's very society based, that kind of thing. Their language, I'm writing the story in English. It's just that I don't want it to be like, oh, inside the book. So the character names are not English. They are going to be, I formed the names. So I'm still like thinking about character names, like okay, some names I don't like, some names are probably gonna change, that kind of thing. So the language is not going to be English, but I'm going to write it as English. Like, oh, this girl said, oh, how are you? I'm fine. Like, I'm going to say it in English, because I don't have like it's just going to be too much if they are grab. So it's going to be in English, but their language, the language that they speak in PR, is not English. I've not figured out the language. Maybe I'll call it something. I don't know. I've not thought about the language. I'm also thinking like, in Garden of Eden, are the animals dangerous to grab? Because they are going to kill the animals. Like they're going to kill goats and cows and everything. Because I already started writing it, and there are a lot of soups, a lot of animal soups, and I'm just like, are the animals dangerous? Like, are they like regular animals? Like, are there lions that will eat them, or are the lions like very tame? I'm just thinking about it because later on I'm going to have to bring up animal things. Do you grab? These days I get a lot of inspiration from TikTok. Like if I see a TikTok video and there's this specific, it can be the most random thing, like they're not even related to the story, and I just say, oh, okay, I just like the way the person did their face here, or the sentence that they used there, just like a dance. This story has a lot of dance. I'm not saying writing the dance yet, but like dance is therapeutic in this story. To grab, so one of the characters needs to let go of his anger. Like the male main character needs to let go of his anger and his shame and his guilt, and one of the other characters helps him to do that through dance. And please, how am I supposed to write dance in a story from like, oh, she swayed her hips, and like, you grab? So I'm like, how am I going to do that? How am I going to do that? I remember with Oge's Custodian, writing a story from the point of view of a character that is always sleeping is like, it was, how am I going to write, oh, she was talking to somebody this thing and she fell asleep and all of a sudden she's like, another place, like, because she, like, it's a sleeping disorder, do you grab, narcolepsy, and I was like, how am I going to do that? How am I going to translate her sleepiness and the confusion? Because it's a lot of confusion. Like when you are doing something at one moment and all of a sudden you just like focus yourself and like you are somewhere else. And like how did I get here? Like that confusion was like when I was brainstorming Oge's Custodian. So like, how am I going to like write down this confusion on paper? And at the end, like it turned out okay. It turned out actually very okay. So dance, I'm like, how am I going to transfer dance, like, or the dance that's in my head to like paper? Like it's supposed to be like a therapeutic thing. Like how am I going to explain how the dance is changing a character so that's something I'm also thinking about. I'll continue of things that I have not yet figured out, because I have not figured out a lot. Just because I've written 25k doesn't mean I've already figured out my story, because like I don't know anything. Like even the kitchen that I said that is going to be like important part of the story, like when the characters are eating inside, and then I don't know how to describe it because it's not regular world. So the kitchen, for example, is like a very big place. They've divided the kitchen into the kitchen place where you cook, then places where you actually eat. So the places that you eat, it's not like, oh, chair and table. It's like dug into the ground, like a small bowl in the earth. I don't know if it gets. So I'm just like, how will I describe what is in my head on paper? So like they've dug like different scoops of places where you can sit. So I guess like 7 people can sit down in a hole and just be eating. Do you got? So it's like there are lots of things that I've not figured out yet. And even though I'm already writing and I'm going to write after this video, I just don't have a lot of things like to go on. So it just comes like very like tiny. Okay, this thing comes, I say okay, this and that scene comes, or this sentence comes, I'm like okay, like this character can say this, or like, so it's like very tiny things, and like from the most random things, especially TikTok, music videos, then some other things. Maybe if I'm watching a YouTube video and they just say, oh, they just mention one thing, I'm like, oh, like that's a very good mindset that one character can have. Do you get? I'll also think about like what will happen in that character's life that will make that character have that kind of mindset. So everything's like coming together, but it's not coming together at once. So I'm going to go and write now. And maybe when I'm done with my writing session, I'll just let you know how many words that I've written so far. So